Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for July 18th through 24th, 2022. I'm starting to get my voice back. If you watched the past couple of weekly updates, somebody got COVID. So here we are. Much better. Thank you very much. But if you are watching live, do say hello. Let me know how you're doing, how you're navigating the energies. And every week, of course, we get together to talk about the astrology because, of course, the astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. Most people don't look at it that way. Astrology is just energy. So how do we meet this energy? How do we live it? What are the lessons that we take from it? How do we use it to grow and to transform? And it's the end of Cancer season as we sort of start the week, and it means that we are coming to the end of a time in our zodiac calendar. The zodiac calendar, meaning each solar month, each zodiac month, the sun goes into a new zodiac sign, which it will this week. It goes into Leo later this week, July 22nd. And it's a step-by-step process. We start with Aries, which is the rebirth of life after the cold and the dark of winter. Of course, that's on a seasonal level, but it's this spark of life, this renewal. We start a new season, and then we go through each of the zodiac signs, and we sort of learn more. We integrate more the archetype and the energy. And maybe you're thinking, but Katie, I'm not a Cancer. But somewhere in your astrology is Cancer, because astrology is the wheel of life. And so as we're coming to the end of Cancer season this week, we are reflecting on our relationship with home and family. Cancer, it's the first water sign. It's the second cardinal sign. The cardinal signs talk about these really primal and integral experiences and energies and archetypes that really build and support our life. And you can't get any more primal than Cancer. It's water. It's the first water sign. It's about that care and that nurture. And I think sometimes Cancer doesn't always get its due. We sort of, on a cultural level, paint it as this very, sensitive, quick to cry sign. And I don't think that's fair, because Cancer as an archetype, it connects us to this energy, this kind of substance-like energy that's in everything. It holds everything together. It's the emotional bonds, of course. But I think it's about what really connects us, really connects our lives, connects each other on a relationship level, on a familial level, on a societal level. And we need Cancer. But that said, it does sort of touch on these deeper emotions and these subconscious energies and even unconscious energies, and the things that we just do without even thinking, the things that we reach for because it's habitual, because we're craving something from our childhood. I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, how we were talking about at the beginning of the pandemic, at least for me, and I think this is kind of a shared experience, we were reaching for things that were of comfort, whether it's food. For me, I kept watching 80s movies because that was my childhood. I think I even talked about the astrology of Karate Kid at one point. Trying to keep myself busy in 2020. But anyway, we're coming to the end of Cancer season. That sense of nostalgia, emotions, connections, and we're preparing for Leo. Both Cancer and Leo are what are called the lights of astrology. Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon doesn't give off light, but it certainly reflects the light of the sun. And then Cancer season is ruled by the sun, which means we're stepping into a season later this week, which is all about the vitality of life, the passion of life. It's fire, it's connection, and I always think about passion when I think of Leo season and Leo in general, and how we're at least acculturated to think that, passion's not that important, but it's actually vital to life. So we're going to talk a little bit about Leo season. The other thing that's happening this week, we've had a few planetary changes. Venus went into Cancer yesterday, so we're not quite done with Cancer energies. And Venus is the planet of what we love, what we value, what we want to invest time and money in. And when it's in Cancer, it's really driven by emotional connection, nostalgia. It's driven by emotions in general and sort of this instinctual need to create security and stability. And on tomorrow, July 19th, we're also going to see Mercury change signs. It's going to go into Leo. And then later this week, as I've alluded to, the sun is going to change signs. So when the planets change signs, it's time for new directions, new chapters. But anyway, before I get too far ahead of myself, just kind of reintroduce myself. My name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in the New York City area. And every week, we gather live to talk about the astrology. And, for me, it's always such an honor to be able to share my passion with you, Leo season. And maybe it's because I have Jupiter in Leo, and Jupiter rules my chart. Just a little fun fact. But I'm also a psychic medium, so I bring that element into my work. If you've ever worked with me one-on-one, it's not just your astrology, it's really looking at your soul and what you came here to grow and to learn and to evolve through. And you've heard me talk week in and week out about Saturn. Saturn's one of my go-to planets, talks about the lessons of life. But that said, we're also going to talk about Chiron this week because Chiron turns retrograde, and got a lot to talk about with Chiron because it's a newer addition to astrology. So if you're watching live, do say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Yes, I am just finally starting to get better 2 weeks later. Anyway, so let's look at the astrology of July 18th through 24th, 2022. So let's start off with Monday, July 18th. Today, Mercury, which is on its way out of Cancer. And as it goes out of Cancer, it makes something called an opposition to Pluto. So Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008, and we don't always think, certainly I do, but we don't always think about these sort of macro, big picture astrology chapters. But ever since 2008, Pluto's been in Capricorn. It's going to start to transition out of Capricorn in 2023, and by 2024, it's finally into Aquarius. So we're starting to wrap up a really long chapter. In total, it's going to be 16 years of Pluto really teaching us some very powerful lessons about structure, the structure of our lives, the structure of our world, and a lot of the shifts and changes that have been happening over the last decade plus. But on a personal level, wherever Pluto is, it talks about a need for evolution, reformation, transformation, and to put light on something that has previously been in the dark. So Mercury, it's in the end of Cancer right now, and it's coming up against the energies of Pluto. So how we think, listen, learn, communicate, even the choices that we make, it's sort of coming up against these energies of Pluto, and we have to see something that we typically don't look at. We have to pay attention to the words we use, the choices that we make, the things that we typically do on autopilot or instinct. Cancer is a very instinctual sign, and be like, wait, but why do I keep doing that? Why do I keep saying that? Why do I keep choosing that? And the beauty and sometimes the pain of Pluto is that it gives us an opportunity to make a really powerful transformation. Pluto is like the plumber of the zodiac, of all the planets, and Pluto likes to reach into what's ever in our dark heart and pull it out and show it us. So be aware of the conversations that you're having today, even the thoughts and the choices that you're making, the interactions that you're having, because they could be powerful. They could be transformative, they can shift something, and they can put a light on something that is typically in your blind spots, Pluto. But sometimes a Pluto opposition means that we might even have to have a difficult conversation or something that really challenges us. So pay attention again to what's happening as you start your week, because even though that Mercury-Pluto opposition is quite quick in the grand scheme of things, it's part of a larger story about power and transformation and restructuring that's been happening over the last 14 years. Yes, 14 years. Which brings me to July 19th. So Tuesday, July 19th, we got a couple of things. Mercury, it leaves Cancer and it goes into Leo. Mercury will be in Leo until August 4th, so that's kind of a quick time. There comes a point in Mercury's cycle where it will spend about a very quick 2 to 3 weeks in the sign of a zodiac. So Mercury, planet of voice and communication, it trades a sign that's driven by the moon, instinct, feeling, emotions, nostalgia, the past. And it's going to go into a sign that's driven by the sun, creativity, self-expression, joy, that spark of life. And I love talking about Leo, which I will shortly, because I think it's another sign that doesn't always get its due, because we sort of look at astrology often on a cultural lens, and that lens is often painted by sun sign astrology and sort of how we've been acculturated by astrology in the last 50, 60 years, ever since the 1960s, and especially the stuff that was coming out, Linda Goodman, etc., sunset horoscopes, and we think of Leo as the diva of the zodiac, but really Leo is an archetype and an energy, and that energy can create and uplift, or it can become like it's the sun, like everything revolves around it and nothing else matters. And of course, that's the negative side of the Leo archetype. But Mercury in Leo, it really reconnects to the passion and really using our voice to communicate our desires, what makes us to have pleasure and joy and that spark of life, Leo. And maybe for those that are very creative with their voice, they're writers, they're singers, this is the perfect time for them to kind of reconnect to that spark within. But Mercury in Leo is very playful, and on some level it's gonna get playful too. Yes, I changed the cushion cover because some little doggy kept chewing on the cushion cover and it was starting to look pretty terrible. So it makes me sad because I actually really liked that cushion cover, but sometimes, Miguel, my dog, he just kind of did a number on it. So anyway. Also, on July 19th, Chiron turns retrograde at 16 Aries. So Chiron, it's been in Aries since 2018, 2019. And what is Chiron? Well, Chiron's a newer addition to astrology. And if you Google Chiron, certainly within astrology, the stuff that comes up I don't personally always agree with. So I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. One of the things that I don't agree with is that a lot of the material out there says that Chiron is the wound that doesn't heal. I think things can heal. Maybe it takes time. Maybe it takes multiple lifetimes, but things can heal. And then it's the wounded healer. I'm like, what does that even mean? And I think that that's something that we often will say when we try to describe Chiron without really truly understanding what that is. It becomes jargon. Again, I'm on a soapbox just for a little moment. So for me, and this comes from how I've been taught about Chiron from my spirit guides. Yes. My spirit guides teach me about astrology, and one of the things they told me about is that Chiron, it's not a wound, it's sort of a semantic argument, it's a knot. It's the knot in your personal fabric, your tapestry. Yes, every choice you make, every moment of life you live, every emotion that you put into your life, it weaves something. It becomes like this tapestry. I know that this is sort of this little poetic look of your life, but that's, and then you have these knots, and these are knots of suffering, and this could be a knot from trauma, this could be a knot from something accumulative, it could be something quite serious because of something that's repetitive, addiction, abuse, for example. But there's those personal knots that really help us, air quotes, help us connect to the collective experience. So if you suffer, I know it's a strong word, but that's the thing about Chiron. Chiron is a point of pain and suffering in our astrology because we're humans. And I'm pretty sure as human beings, we all have something. If we're lucky, it's one thing that makes us feel suffering. We don't come here to this world, this life, to suffer, but certainly there's suffering here. And there's this experience that we have, and there could be this pain point that keeps getting pressed where Chiron can also feel like scar tissue. And we have these moments where that story, we all know what that story is, that keeps coming up. So maybe you have Chiron Taurus, it's about self-worth and value. Chiron Gemini, it's about your voice. Maybe you have Chiron in Aries, which is where Chiron is right now, and it's about having the courage and bravery to do something, stand up for yourself, stand up on your own, and really be in the power of an agency of your life. So there's something, again, we all have something, and when we have these moments with Chiron in the astrology, it gives us an opportunity to undo the knot. We don't undo the knot by being really in our personal story of pain and suffering. I get it. I'm a human, but we all have something. But we have to open up to the collective experience and understanding that you're not the first person who's maybe not felt brave enough or courageous enough to do something that you know you need to do. Or even struggles with self-worth or finding your voice or feeling like you belong or have a sense of family and connection, or even these deeper existential pain points, or Chiron Pisces, for example. But the beauty and the magic and the medicine of Chiron is when we take the things that have made us suffer the most and use it to help other people. Chiron in Aries, Chiron turning retrograde in Aries. Yes, it's turning retrograde, but it's one of those moments when we check in with this archetype that can often play in the background. Chiron's not a very overt planet. I realize it's not a planet. It's an asteroid, if we're going to be technical about it. But for me, it's a very powerful point in our astrology. And when I'm looking at an astrology chart and sort of mapping out a larger story and framework within somebody's astrology, Chiron's one of the areas that I go to, because it talks about what are you here to heal, to give back to humanity, give back to that great tapestry that we're all contributing towards, and how if we lessen a little bit of our part of it, maybe that actually opens up space for other people. So this is a week to have courage and bravery, and that might be the hardest thing that we feel is possible right now because Chiron's turned retrograde. But we've had a lot of Chiron energy, especially with that Cancer new moon and the Capricorn full moon, this lunar month that we're still in until the beginning of August. So Chiron's kind of really with us, these sort of thornier, repetitive, keeps coming up, and these things that on an emotional, spiritual level we keep reacting to. But there's this life experience with Chiron, there's the multi-life experience with Chiron, and maybe, I don't know what you believe in, I don't know if you believe in past lives, but that one area in our soul's experience where there's a reason why there's a knot there. There's a reason why it's about value and worth, and maybe that's not just from this lifetime, it's from other lifetimes. So we're doing our healing work, and Chiron, it's turning retrograde in Aries, it's bringing up that energy of courage and bravery. Mars, the ruler of Chiron, because Chiron's in Aries, Mars is over in Taurus, and it's been bopping along on eclipse degrees, and then on August 1st, I realized I'm getting ahead of myself by a couple of weeks, Mars will make that conjunction to Uranus. So Chiron turning retrograde does tap into a greater narrative about reinvention and transformation and getting out of our comfort zones and finding a new relationship with stability and security by leaving something behind. So maybe that's where we need to have that courage and bravery this week. But again, yes, wounds can heal. And a little shameless plug, I did do a webinar, I guess back in 2019 at this point, on Chiron called Healing the Soul. I think that when we really work on our Chiron, and something that my guides said that I always think about, they said, don't add suffering to your name like letters. Meaning, don't make your story, we all have that story, part of your identity. And this is a week to really separate those things that have happened to us versus who we truly are, which is a beautiful segue to Leo season. So we have the sun going into Leo on the 22nd of July. Before it does that, it makes the sun in Cancer makes an opposition to Pluto. And I'm sort of backtracking for a second because the sun-Pluto opposition is on the 19th. Got a lot of stuff going on the 19th. And I was looking at the ephemeris in astrology, and I was like, wow, this is the second last time that the sun in Cancer is going to oppose Pluto in Capricorn. There's going to be one more in 2023, July 2023, and then that's it for like 250 years. I know, crazy. Yeah, so we had sun opposite Pluto, and I think with that Pluto energy, the Chiron energy, we're working at the level of the soul this week, even if it's not obvious. And then the sun goes into Leo on the 22nd of July. And we start a new season. So here we are. We've gone through 4 zodiac signs. We're sort of building our experiences. We learned about, in Cancer season, what's important, what's truly important, what's in our heart and our soul, that sense of care and nurturing and connection, home. We all need a home. And now we're coming into Leo season. So Leo ruled by the sun that, gives us life. We need the sun, and we all have the sun somewhere. You might not be a Leo. Happy birthday, happy upcoming birthday, Leo, by the way, but you do have the sun in some zodiac sign, and that's where the light of the sun shines through that archetype. So I'm a Scorpio. So I have the sun, the light of the sun, the light of the divine, not to get esoteric about it, shining through the archetype of Scorpio. Death and rebirth, transformation. That's why it's a pretty intense sign. But the sun in Leo, it's returned home. So it's this time when we are really reconnecting more strongly to the energies, these vital energies of self-expression, creativity, fun, joy, pleasure. It's really, and that's the beauty of Leo. It's if you are a Leo, one of your works, being in this, living this archetype is to shine. It's to inspire people and to inspire people to be themselves. A lot of us, a great vast majority, spend our lives trying to be someone we're not. And typically that's because we've been programmed by our family in our past and, don't be this, be this. And then we get to these key moments where we're like, oh shoot, like I'm not this. And then we realize that a lot of things have to change. Of course, that's a little dramatic, Leo, but, use Leo season to get back to that spark. We all have that spark inside of us that makes us us. There's 7 billion people on this planet, but there's only one you. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but it's, real. And it's the most important thing is to rediscover and to connect with what is inside of you. And you do that by being creative. You do that by doing the things that give you life and give you joy and vitality. And this is the thing. We live in a world that tells us, that our passions are a luxury. And certainly in some cases it is a luxury because we have to take care of really real world things. But you know what happens when we don't feed that energy? We get burnt out. The sign that comes after Leo is Virgo. I realize I'm getting ahead of myself for not in Virgo season, but it's sort of a reminder that if we try to skip the energy of fire, we run straight into earth. We need the energy of fire to give life to earth. If we skip over Leo, the fun, the pleasure, the joy, the creativity, the self-expression, the identity, we run into Virgo season, and then we don't have any fun in Virgo season. It's not work, it's drudgery. So we need the fuel of Leo to prepare us for the practice and the craft and the precision of Virgo season. It's probably not a coincidence that everybody goes on holiday typically in August. Certainly they do in Europe. Certainly here in the United States, I realize it's not summer everywhere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, it's winter. But this is a time, astrology is very northern hemisphere biased, but it is a time that's sort of reminding us about being in the energies of the things that give us life and vitality, because if we skip that step, It's going to be really hard when you get to Virgo season, and it's certainly very hard when you start to get to the other zodiac signs. So fuel up. Really get in touch with what makes you you. This could be something as simple as the things that you love: music, dance, creativity, playing with your children, going on vacation. But more importantly, the things that light you up. It's a conversation that I have all the time with my clients where they're like, I'm stuck. I don't know where I want to go and what I want to do. And sounds simplistic, but I'm like, well, what lights you up? Because that is one of the key indicators of a path for you. It's certainly, it gets things flowing and moving when you do the things that light you up. So that's your homework this Leo season. The other comment about Leo season is it marks the midpoint of the eclipse cycle. So if you remember, we had a solar eclipse on April 30th. That solar eclipse was in Taurus, followed 2 weeks later by a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So eclipse seasons, they happen every 6 months. And then we get to the midpoint of the eclipse cycle. And often it's a time when we really truly connect with the energy of the eclipses. It may be 3 months later, but then that eclipse story gets activated. Somebody comes into your life, somebody leaves your life, a door opens, a door closes. And even those major milestones that eclipses can mark in our lives. And eclipses just change the narrative. They bring the curtain down on one act of our life, one stage of our life, and they open it up to another. The thing about these eclipses, in particular ones of April, May, and the ones to come in October, November of 2022, is that they are happening in the signs of Taurus and Scorpio. This may sound a little bit intense, but we have to really kind of give Taurus and Scorpio their due diligence. Taurus is the rebirth of life. It's the fertility of life. You can think about flowers in May, but then Scorpio, it's the decay of life. And it's sort of this very important and fundamental dance that happens in creation. And that's, Leo is part of the fixed cross. It's sort of these energies of life and the structures of life and how life begins and creates and ends and comes back. Certainly it comes back with Taurus season. So that said, we are really trying to bring in the fertility of life, the stability, the pleasure, joy. Sounds like I'm talking about Leo, but I'm also talking about Taurus. But that means that we also have to respect that there are things in our life that need to decay, Scorpio, and leave us to prepare for new life. So we're going to be in this midpoint of the eclipse cycle. We're going to talk about this more, especially as we come up to the Leo new moon of, I think it's the end of July, followed by the Aquarius full moon in August. And then we have Uranus during retrograde on August 24th. So we got lots of time to talk about this, but I just wanted to put this on your schedule. Let's talk about the astrology. Kind of went on a little bit. Let's talk about the astrology in each of the 12 signs, sort of where Leo season is asking you to find joy and creativity, and maybe even where that Chiron pain point can come in. So Aries. So Leo for you, Aries, is what's called your fifth sign. So everything I've been talking about joy and creativity, self-expression, that connects to you on a very fundamental level. So it's a time for you, Aries, to remember what makes you you. And because Mars, your planet, is in your second sign of Taurus, you're very conscious right now about value, worth. Am I valuable? Am I worth? Are my creative talents of any value? So there might be this tension that's happening, but you're really awakening and opening up to a different way of looking at value and worth, especially with Uranus and Taurus in this part of your chart since 2018, 2019. And then there's Chiron, and Chiron's turning retrograde in Aries. Hey, you're in Aries. So you're really feeling this, Aries, even if it's not overt. Chiron can sometimes play on this very subliminal background level. And Chiron in Aries is a larger framework of time. I can't remember how long it is in particular. This has been since 2018, 2019 for you, Aries, where you have to find courage and bravery. You have to heal something very fundamental to who you are, but that's not always so obvious. And this is about really shifting and transforming your relationship with yourself and how you take action and how you move forward. So really be aware with the stories that are coming up. It actually may be connected to something deeper. Taurus. So we're coming up to Leo season, and Leo season for you, Taurus, is your sign of home and family. So Leo forms the base of your chart. And so this is a season, of course, to get back to your passion, your joy, but also to get back home, to put down roots, to focus on your home, focus on family, certainly duties and responsibilities in the home, and to really nourish that root, Taurus. And that's the thing. You've been through, you're just going through intense astrology right now, Taurus, that maybe you just sort of need to get back to the things that are going to really support you and nourish you during this time of growth and transformation. So pay attention to the themes about home and family that are coming up. There is Venus, your planet. It just went into Cancer, and Cancer for you is your sign of communication, ideas, information. So a little bit busy time for you, Taurus. Maybe some travel, some movement, but it's also a time when education, ideas, maybe you're taking classes, maybe you're sharing information, sharing what you know. But of course, it's coming from a place deep in your heart. Oh, Chiron's turning retrograde in your 12th. So that's a part where you typically can't see. The 12th is our non-manifested world. It's our invisible world. So maybe this is sort of these deeper existential spiritual questions that are bubbling up, but not quite in an overt way. So pay attention to your dreams, pay attention to those sort of feelings and emotions that are coming up that aren't sort of in the space between your thoughts. And maybe that's something on a deeper level that's trying to reveal itself to you. Gemini. So Gemini, Leo season for you is your third sign. So it's a very busy sign. Gemini, you are the third sign, and Leo is your third sign. Hopefully that makes sense. So it always reminds me that there's this natural need to express and to create through the sign of, through the part of your chart that's about ideas and information, writing, communication, education, movement, travel. It's a really busy time. On some level, it's a time for you to get back to you, or at least things that, you really are an easy way to connect to who you are. What's your passion? What's your joy? Well, often it's curiosity, learning about life. And Mercury, your planet, it's left Cancer, and now it's gone into Leo. So you're probably going to be a bit busy as you go into August 4th, because that's the amount of time that Mercury is going to be in your third, and then it's going to go into your fourth. We'll talk about that in August. But that said, Chiron is turning retrograde in your 11th. And so there's something about friends, community, that sense of social connection, having the courage and bravery to make connection, to lead, to know who your friends are. Certainly Mars is pushing on some deeper points about value and worth. Am I valuable? Am I valuable to my friends, my community? But Chiron is definitely hitting on a deeper pain point this week. I will say Mercury does oppose Pluto as you start the week, so there's probably some really intense emotional energies before Mercury goes into Leo on July 19th. Cancer. So we have to say goodbye to Cancer season this week. If your birthday is this week, you're born near the end of Cancer. And I just wanted to point out that, and maybe this is like a larger topic, but Cancer's been in sort of this oppositional dance with Pluto since 2008. And for many other Cancers, they've already gone through the opposition. But if you're born near the end of Cancer, you're going through it now. And I'm just saying this, if this birthday season feels a bit more intense than it typically does, just know that Pluto is really trying to foster some sort of transformation and rebirth at this time. And so if you're feeling something, it's not just you. It's also part of this stage of life you're in, and sort of this need for alchemy and transformation on a personal and a soul level that needs to happen right now. So anything you can do to proactively work with this energy, I think, would be very helpful. Even if you weren't born at this part of the zodiac, if you're born earlier in Cancer, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but this maybe happened 5 or even 10 plus years ago. But that said, the sun going into Leo is talking about your second sign. When the sun comes, we have our birthday, it's a time of renewal and new beginning, and then the sun moves from our sign, it goes to the next sign, and that's where we have to sort of take these new beginnings and anchor them in. And looking at themes about value and worth, money, investment, income, but on a more, larger, broader level, it's like, how do we really create the stability and the anchorage that we need in order to bring in this new, chapter of your life, Cancer. You are going to have Venus in your sign for a couple of weeks. So there's the time for you to really nourish the things that, feed your heart, feed your soul. You do have Chiron turning retrograde in something called your 10th. This is a part of a larger framework of time that brings you back to 2018, 2019, which is, courage and bravery and that pain point. It's now about your career. It's about your place in the world, your duties and responsibilities. Maybe you feel that you are sort of overwhelmed by duties and responsibilities and having to do everything yourself. Or maybe you feel like there's something that you really need to do in the world, but you haven't had a chance to do it, maybe because it hits on something very deep and there's this sort of that, not having the confidence. So this is a time where you have to really find your confidence, find your courage, really go after what you want, including your ambitions, but on some level, not try to do everything yourself, and learn to delegate and to learn to find balance in your life, Cancer. Leo. So happy almost birthday, Leo. The sun is leaving your 12th sign, as we talk. And so you've been wrapping up one personal cycle. It's about letting go, release, reflection. And then the sun goes into Leo on July 22nd. So over the course of 4 weeks, which of course brings us into the end of August, it's a time of rebirth, renewal, and new beginnings, celebrating your birthday and getting back to what makes you you. And this is a comment I said when we first started, is that Leo, you're a sign that's here to remind us that we all have to shine and do what you do best, Leo, shine. And to do it from a very pure place, of course, not because, we all need to kind of shine and show what makes us, of course, but that's your superpower, Leo, is to be the inspiration for others. And I have certainly had many a Leo client that has forgotten how to shine. And what happens when a Leo does not get a chance to shine? They get very cranky and they get a bit burnt out. So use this season to get back to the things that give you passion and joy. You are a Leo after all. You do have Chiron turning retrograde in your 9th. So maybe some of these deeper pain points and themes, certainly they're not always overt. The courage and bravery to stand up for what you think is true, your convictions, that sense of right and wrong, not to fall into a trap of being like, this is right and this is the only thing that's right, but certainly to sort of have that courage and bravery to stand out in the world and to sort of stand what you believe in. There's also deeper themes about faith. The 9th, it's faith, but that's faith that's derived from the world. It's because I learned this in school, or somebody taught me this, or my religion or my philosophy tells me that this is true. And so maybe you're sort of feeling that, like, do I have faith? Do I have faith in the world? Faith doesn't have to be a religious concept. It can certainly be faith that everything is going to work out. And so, looking at anything that's sort of eroding at that confidence right now, Leo, or really getting you to question what you stand for, what you think is true and what you believe in, and really even anything that's eroding at that sense of knowledge and wisdom that you have. So that's just sort of a larger point. And Chiron, of course, is going to manifest differently for different people. But whatever you're feeling, whatever deeper emotion you're feeling this week may be existential in nature. Virgo. So Virgo, your planet, Mercury, it's wrapping up its time in Cancer this week. And it's really on the cusp of Cancer Leo, even as I record this. So for you, Virgo, Cancer is, that's your, I want to say 11th sign. My mind is, yep, this is your 11th sign. It's about friends and community. It's about your place in the world. And it's making that opposition to Pluto before it leaves and goes to Leo. So Monday may be a little intense, maybe even into Tuesday. There's sort of the sense of having to confront something, maybe confront something about self-identity, what makes you you, or even confront something about your community and your friends and your social circle. Mercury goes into Leo, your 12th sign, and you spend about 2 weeks, this is until August 4th, needing to go within. Typically, when a major planet is going through the 12th, we don't have the pick up and go. We can't move forward at full drive. We really need to rest. And to do the inner work, you've sort of completed one greater cycle, Virgo, and now you're preparing for the next cycle that begins, in theory, around the time that Mercury goes into Virgo in the beginning of August, and then certainly in preparation of Virgo season, which is later in August. So don't push too hard, Virgo. Rest, recuperate, move more slowly, more deliberate. And then on the inner side of things, really try to make sense of life the best that you can. This is a time for reflection, meditation, spirituality, and trying to access and enter those typically hidden, intuitive, and even subliminal spaces inside of you, inside of your life. Leo season for you, again, it's your 12th, so it's a larger time, and this brings you all the way to the start of Virgo season. What is that, like around the 22nd or 3rd of August, where you need to prepare for the next chapter in life. What have you learned since 2021 and 2021's birthday season? What do you need to let go of? What are you ready to integrate? What are you ready to shed? And this will all prepare you for your birthday season. Chiron is turning retrograde in your 8th, so the pain point right now may be very emotional. It might be talking about trust and opening up and intimacy and vulnerability and maybe even stuff from the past. So this is a little bit more of a push for you to do your healing work this week, Virgo. Libra. So Libra, Leo season. I was like, well, Cancer season. We're coming out of Cancer, which is your 10th sign, which is all about career and your place in the world. And so this reminder that Libra is a sign, whether it's your sun sign or your rising sign, where Cancer as a career sign reminds you that you have to do what you love in the world. That said, you're coming off of this sort of high point in your astrology. The sun is going into Leo, which is your 11th. And then you have over the next 4 weeks this time when it's about looking ahead, looking towards the future. It's like you've made all these achievements with the sun in Cancer. You've focused on your professional life. You focus on responsibilities and sort of this place you're carving out in the world. What's next? And maybe this is where you have a sense of hopes and dreams for the future, looking ahead, trying to get that inspiration, that fire of Leo season to sort of motivate you to go towards that next goal in your life. But then it's also about your community, your friends, your social circle, and maybe even larger social themes, social justice, social equity, social causes, and that, so it's sort of about the world right now for you. Libra, Venus, which is your career planet, and also not your career planet, it's your planet, but it's in your career sign. It'll be in your career sign until the beginning of August. So it sort of is bringing this another wave of energy, which sort of makes it about your professional life. Over the past few weeks with Venus and Gemini, it's been about education, travel, maybe even long distance travel, but also sort of gathering the wisdom and knowledge you need to bring forward into your professional life. But yeah, your astrology right now is very much worldly focused as opposed to inwardly focused. And then there's Chiron, and Chiron turns retrograde in your relationship sign of Aries. over the past couple of years, 2018, 2019, there's been a deeper story in your relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I mean all relationships. It's about how you connect to other people and sort of the deeper pain points that come up in your connections. Do you have the courage and bravery to connect to people, to be in a relationship, It's the thing about relationships is that it's a dance between you and somebody else, and learning to negotiate and compromise with somebody else's needs. And so maybe there's been a very quiet inequity at play. And so how do you heal that? Or maybe it's a healing work that has to happen in relationships. And sometimes when there's a planet in our seventh, the primary person in our life, a partner, a spouse, or a deeper relationship, they are like Chiron. They are showing us something that needs to be healed. They are the archetype of something that needs to be healed. Scorpio. So Scorpio, Cancer season for you has been about really looking towards travel, long distance travel, searching, needing to answer big questions. It's been a time for adventure, sort of these deeper philosophical questions, education, but we're now moving into Leo season. So Leo for you is your career sign. It forms the highest reaches of your astrology chart. We always think of Scorpio being so private, so sort of, putting up the guard and being calculated, that we forget that the part of the chart that's about shining is in the most public part of their astrology. So Leo season is typically when it's time to focus on the professional life, to get recognized for your talents, gifts, and abilities. Certainly we'll see this more after the Leo new moon later in July. But this is a time when, even though it's certainly in the northern hemisphere, it's summer, where maybe you're more busy than typically other signs are right now. So it's also about really carving your place out in the world. So then there's Mars, your planet. It's over in Taurus. It's been in Taurus, I think, since the beginning, July 5th. So this is also about relationships. It continues to be about relationships. We're going to talk a lot more about this, especially as we go into the 1st of August with that big conjunction of Mars and Uranus on the North Node. But that said, it is about your career right now. And then Chiron is in your 6th. There's some sort of deeper story about your health and wellness and how you show up on a day-to-day life. The 6th is our work. It's sort of the operational space in our personal astrology, getting things done, brushing our teeth, showing up, having a schedule. But it's also where we're really present in our life. And sometimes we're not always present. So pay attention to these sort of themes about work and projects and health and wellness and showing up on time. That's sort of that deeper story that's coming up for you this week, Scorpio. Sagittarius. Had to think about it for a second. Sagittarius. So the sun has left Cancer. Cancer is your 8th sign, and the 8th sign is that point in your astrology that happens this time every year where you have to really do the inner work. It's not about, it's a thing, it's Cancer too. It's typically pointed emotions. It's emotions that connect you to the past and family and the stuff maybe you don't always talk about in polite company. These are the things that you talk about with really only the people that you trust. But there have been these deeper themes about, again, trust, intimacy, vulnerability, also money and finance, looking at your wallet, your investments, your assets, and even your financial planning. And this includes debt and sort of having to negotiate debt, taxes, wealth planning, lack of wealth, but even looking at the resources that you can call on from other people, including a spouse if you have one. But that said, Leo season for you, fire sign, you're a fire sign, Sagittarius. This is going to be a season that typically feels very familiar. Leo is your 9th sign. The sign of the sun is in the part of your astrology that talks about convictions, truth, right or wrong, what you believe in, knowledge, wisdom, higher education, but also adventure and foreign travel. In that sense, that thing that Sagittarius energy connects us to, which is the quest. The quest for more knowledge, or even the quest for something that we even can't even put our finger on. So this is a time for you on some level to be you, Sagittarius. You have Jupiter, it's in Aries, which is your 5th. Then you have, the sun is in your 9th. So there's a lot of fire energy for Sagittarius right now. Fire energy is typically about identity, motivation, power, creativity, but also sort of the larger ideas that we are opening our eyes up to and even sharing with other people. So you're really sharing what you believe in and what your truth is right now, Sagittarius. But you do have Chiron turning retrograde in your 5th. So there's something about self-identity, being able to express who you truly are, that thing that makes you you, and maybe even sort of deeper themes about creativity, and maybe by extension even children, because children are a form of creativity. So pay attention to where you lose your confidence, where you sell yourself short, where you don't allow yourself to be yourself. And that's part of something deeper that you are healing, Sagittarius. But, I think Jupiter is going to turn retrograde later this month. That's next week. We have something to talk about. And then it's going to go, or turn retrograde, and then it's going to go back into Pisces. But that's in October. Wait, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. But that is Sagittarius. Capricorn. So just your friendly check-in, Capricorn. Saturn's your planet. Saturn's still in Aquarius. It's going to be in Aquarius until March 4th, 2023. So you're in the home stretch now, Capricorn. It's been so much about money and value and worth and creating material stability in your life, and really getting clear about what do you want to invest your time and money and your real world life in. Maybe it's buying a property, maybe it's getting your first home or getting another home, or maybe it's becoming very aware of the things that you don't have, the resources you don't have access. But wherever Saturn is, and I realize you are what's called Saturn ruled, it's about the mastery of that area. I know you wanted to be a Capricorn in this life, which means that you wanted the bar set higher for you. That's just the archetype of the sign. So you're mastering your money and your material life right now, Capricorn. I think the thing that's been a little bit hard, we talked about this from time to time, is that Saturn's just been in a little bit of a tight dance with Uranus. So it's really trying to get you out of these old structures, these things that hold you back, imprison you, and sort of getting you to awaken to who you truly are, Capricorn. That said, Leo season for you is your 8th sign. Cancer is about relationships, 7th sign, Leo, 8th, intimacy, vulnerability, getting uncomfortable. Whenever the sun shows up into the 8th, this is a time for you to face yourself, face the things that you don't want to look at. It's just part of the astrological wheel. It's your time to do the transformation work, Capricorn, and really paying attention to the deeper emotions that are coming up over the next 4 weeks. Chiron is turning retrograde in your what's called your 4th. Typically, these are deeper emotional pain points, themes about home and family and the past and memory, and even stuff about that subconscious memory and even ancestry. So whatever you're feeling this week, Capricorn, it probably has very deep roots and maybe even very old roots. Aquarius. So your planet Saturn continues to be in your sign, and it will be in your sign until March 4th of 2023. I think the thing that's been a little bit hard to navigate over the past couple of years is that you've had a lot of weight and responsibility on your shoulders, Aquarius. It's certainly a very new time in your life, and a lot of that space where that transformation is showing up in your life right now is about home and family. Leo season for you is about relationships. It's about this time where you are reminded that you can't do life alone, and certainly it can feel a little lonely with Saturn and Aquarius over the past couple of years. So connect with people, build partnership, build relationship, put your life back into order and balance. And certainly as the seismic container of your life shakes, and it's been shaking over the past few years, we all need connection to help us move through these sometimes uncertain times, Aquarius. But that said, Chiron is in Aries, and Aries for you is your third sign. So it's about voice and communication, maybe the pain point, but having the courage and bravery to say something, and maybe even to say something that you typically don't feel that you can say. And with Mars over in your fourth, maybe this is something very emotional. It cuts to your emotional core, and maybe even touches on the past and home and family, or even memory. But there may be something that you have to say this week, Aquarius. Finally, Pisces. So Leo season for you, Pisces, it's about your six. The six in your astrology chart, it's a very operational space. It's where you have to get into the details of day-to-day life. You have to wake up, you have to brush your teeth, you have to walk the dog, you have to do all these things that seem annoying, but they're actually very necessary. And this is when you can get your life in order and maybe even reshape your day-to-day life, reshape your schedule, focus on health and wellness, how you take care of your body, the things you eat, how things run and flow. Having Leo here says that this is where you gain vitality. You need a lot of exercise. You need a lot of sense of, health and wellness for you, for example. But that said, this is a time for you to also really be present in your day-to-day life. Certainly there's been a lot going on, Pisces. Chiron for you, it's in your second, and the second is about money and income, but it's also about self-worth and value, and maybe really looking at where you lose confidence and maybe sometimes don't always think that you are of value, or maybe even showing up or even looking at where self-worth has an influence on your relationship with money and income. Certainly, if you don't think you're worth very much, that often shows up in our relationship with money. And how do you heal that? How do you work on that? With the energy pointing over to Mars in your third, you may have something to say, kind of talk about how your feelings about value and worth, or even talking about money with you. But this is a time again for you to really get organized, to get your day-to-day life on track. Jupiter continues to be in Aries, which is your planet, and it's all about this larger time about creating material stability and security in your life, Pisces. So that is your look at the astrology of July 18th through 24th, 2022. My name is Katie Sweetman. Thank you all for joining me. Every week, a lot of familiar faces on the live chat. Even if you're not watching live, always a pleasure to connect with those that watch on replay. You can watch on Instagram, YouTube, and even Spotify. And you can book a consultation with me. Many of you are my clients. I love sitting down and talking to people about their astrology blueprint. And your astrology is just something that you live in it 100%, don't live in it 5%. And I believe that we all came here with some sort of higher potential. We don't come here to fail. There's always a path to get to where we need to get to. And for those that joined me in my Saturn webinar a couple of weeks ago, it continues to be very successful, and I really thank you all that put a lot of my heart and soul in it. But check out my links in the show notes. Certainly you can sign up for my newsletter. I do put out some information about the weekly astrology first thing on Monday. And of course you can learn about future webinars, of which we're going to do more, and even do classes in astrology and how to learn about astrology, especially for my beginners. I'm probably going to start doing this in September. But yeah, there you go. That's your look at the astrology. I thank you all, and I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.